Horror is not a genre that I ever really thought that I would fall into because it's not really talked about in like acting school, right? You talk about drama and you talk about comedy and you take classes in both of those things, but people never talk about horror and that it's like a very like booming genre and that you probably will get work in that. So I just never considered it. And then now I'm getting typecast in a lot of horror. And I think it's probably one of the funnest genres to act in.
Yeah, that's
I
cool.
I like getting bloody and I like creeping people out.
Hey everybody, today on the show we are joined with actress and singer-songwriter Lauren Beatty. Lauren is currently starring in a brand new movie titled Bloodthirsty. That's available right now on video on demand. And actually, if you get it on iTunes, it counts as a movie ticket towards them. So do that. Help out the film. And around talking about her insanely unique role in this movie, we learn about her journey as an artist, both on the acting and music side of things. And as this conversation goes on, we dive deeper and deeper into more beyond the surface subjects such as human energy, the law of attraction, and unexplainable spooky life happenings, and the number 333. This is a fun one. And yeah, before we jump into this one, I just want to say I absolutely love this conversation with Lauren. And I think you guys are going to really dig this one too. This is such a good vibe, and we're definitely going to bug her to come back around her next movie or music release because these are just the type of chats we love to have on here. And that's all I got to say for an intro, but without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is Lauren Beatty, and she is bloodthirsty. Well, yeah, it's really cool to meet you and just have a conversation tonight.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. Actually, what's cool about this movie, Bloodthirsty, is that on this show, like I cover from musicians, like I've had like horror directors and like
Yeah,
so many different elements of this movie, but this
yeah.
just seems like a puzzle of what
This
this
is like all of
podcast
them in
is. Like,
one.
yeah, just kind of connecting into one.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's super
super
cool.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. How were you approached with this project, and when you checked out the script, were you just like all about it, or?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Amelia approached me with the script and asked me to audition, and I had just worked with her a year prior on a feature film that she wrote um, and directed, and so I had worked with her already on a feature and um, had an amazing experience working with her. She's such an awesome director, and so the fact that like she was going to be a part of it and was going to be directing again, I already knew it was going to be amazing no matter what the film was. But um, adding all of the elements that make up Bloodthirsty to the bit was like, it was a major selling point for me. It's like I say this over and over, but if it had been just like a pop star werewolf film, I would have been happy. But it's like a queer pop star werewolf. And I was like, you know, I've peaked essentially. Like this
Yeah, yeah.
is
And obviously, like, you're now all of our favorite pop star werewolves now. Like,
and not a like a pretty easy title to take, I think.
yeah.
Sadly. Not a typical genre, but
Well, I think it's cool personally, but
yeah,
yeah,
me
like you
too.
mentioned, it's more than just that. Like, there's layers
Yeah,
to the film. There's like love story, there's heartbreak, it's a lot of
yeah,
intensity, like without giving too many spoilers away. But
yeah,
I think, like, I'm not an actor myself, but I see somebody like you playing a role like that, and I automatically just imagine like how exhausting that might be, just
yeah.
always just putting out that kind of energy and doing it well like you did in this film. And how
Well,
is
yeah,
how
yeah.
is that for you, like on your side of things?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some days where I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this again tomorrow. But I
Yeah.
think for the most part, like for me, because this is what I love to do, and it's um I mean, especially with horror, and especially with something that's kind of so atmospheric in the way that this film is, like that's kind of what sold me as well, was just like hearing the music before my audition. I could already picture the whole atmosphere of the film. And that to me like gets me so excited when I can just, I feel it like in my body when I'm reading it. And so I think like I was just on such a high too, like filming this that and having such a blast that luckily that excitement, those like endorphins carried me through. But yeah, it was pretty wild ride filming it because I found out I got the part about a week before we started shooting. So I had, essentially like 5 or 6 days to um, learn all of the music and also learn how to play piano. And
Wow.
um, and I was working full time. So
Oh,
I had a
wow.
nine to
Yeah.
five. So I had to do this all in my evenings. So I would work and then I would like, take the bus to a piano teacher. And a couple nights I actually got to sit down with Lowell and at her place in front of her piano and go over the music with her. So that was really cool. But yeah, I mean, all to say like it just happened so quickly because it just had to. So in retrospect, I think I'm glad it happened that way because I didn't really have time to have imposter syndrome or like get in
Mm,
my head about anything. I just had to do it. So
yeah.
there
Yeah.
was like no time to be tired.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
interesting too. Like I was gonna say like that, and kudos to you for like just taking all the steps to do it right, even though you had like 6 day window. It's like I need to learn this on the piano and like do
It's
all
pretty
that.
crazy, but I like a challenge and I do like kind of being thrown into things and just seeing what happens. I like surprising myself. So this was definitely one of those situations, I think.
Yeah, I relate to that vibe too. It's
Yeah.
just like kind of. Do you feel like almost like the pressure too makes it better sometimes?
Oh
Like
yeah, for
makes you
sure.
better?
Yeah, and kind of like it was really interesting too, like the parallels between Gray's character, like what her storyline is. It's like she's working on her sophomore album and she has imposter syndrome, she has writer's block, she doesn't know if she can do it, she doesn't know if she's going to like meet everyone's standards. And like that's the exact same shit that like I was feeling about getting this part.
Oh
So
wow.
it was like, I found out I got it and I was obviously like over the moon, pun
Yeah.
intended.
Yeah. Love it.
Where's your drum roll button?
Yeah, I know. I need
Uh,
sound effects.
but I found I got this role and I was so excited. And then that like doubt sets in where you're like, oh my God, they're trusting, like I have to carry this whole film, like can I do it? And this was also my sophomore feature film, like a lead role in a feature film, so it was like this is my second time doing it and my first one had gone well, so it was really weird, the parallels of like
Yeah.
me and Gray.
Well, that's really interesting. So
Yeah.
besides all the werewolf shit, it's actually like real, like what you're living.
Yeah. No, I'm actually also a werewolf.
Yeah,
Um,
thought so.
yeah. Yeah. No, but
Also,
I
yeah.
found that really interesting. Like, and afterwards, it kind of dawned on me. I was like, oh, I was kind of on not the exact same, but a very similar journey as Gray was on.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
even like I noticed I scrolled through your Instagram too, and you're a songwriter as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually been writing music and like singing longer than I've been acting. My dad's a musician, and so I grew up just like surrounded by music and instruments, and so kind of given that I would go that way too. But yeah, like I started acting in musicals and stuff. So um, yeah, I mean, I'm not kidding when I say this role is like my dream role because it combines two of my passions and like, also just a really fucking sick, concept for a film. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um so
Yeah,
yeah, that
that's
was
really
that was
cool.
very cool for me. It's something like so rewarding in that like having the two kind of come together.
Yeah, that's great. And
Yeah.
this kind of just came out on video on demand, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch a screener prior to it and just seen the final product or
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times actually.
yeah.
With various like friends and family members who wanted to watch it over Zoom with me type of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah, I've,
cool.
I've seen it a couple times now, and yeah, I love how it all came together, and I'm super proud of it.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah,
cool, and like you mentioned earlier too, there's a certain tone to it which is
yeah,
creepy, but then the music comes in and it's kind of beautiful at the same
yeah,
time, makes your brain a
definitely.
little confused of,
Yeah,
should I be
it's I
scared, should
kind
I
of,
be like
yeah, I kind of compare it to like it it's a musical without being a musical. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah,
it doesn't, the music is so, embedded in like the fabric of the film because it is just part of the film. It's not like this added thing. It's like she's actually a musician writing these songs and like trying to write this album. So it doesn't have that cheesiness to it that like a musical would have because it's coming from like a real place, right? So I love how they did it, and I think the added music element just like brings it up a whole level.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool too, with your character, and actually like relates to some an interview I had earlier today with
Mhm.
this rock band. They're called Fanny, and they inspired like B-52s, like
Oh
David
wow.
Bowie and stuff, like
Wow.
crazy shit. But like nobody knows their name, and basically like somebody did like a documentary that's coming out on Hot Docs next week.
Yeah.
But the one girl Bree in the band, she wrote like this one of their bigger songs, like which is like their newer hit,
Yeah.
and it came from like a place of just like kind of feeling like primal energy, just like
Yeah. Yeah.
getting a little angry, and that was like the hit song, that was the banger of the
Yeah.
album or whatever. But almost like your character too, I was thinking
Mhm.
like as I was doing that interview, I'm like that's almost like Lauren in the werewolf movie, where the producer is trying to bring out like the
Like
beast, but
primal
it's like less of a
feeling. Yeah.
metaphor and actually like bringing out the beast.
Exactly.
But then
Yeah.
like your character, like the music actually gets a little better and deeper
Yeah.
as that
Totally.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they did a really good job of like showing the progression too, and it feeling real. Like the scenes when I'm like trying to record that vocal track for the first time and he keeps like stopping me, and from that to like the end, I personally feel like when I'm watching it, like you do feel that like progression that she's gone through, and that like she's gone to like a next level. um and it's like I think that primalness that you hear, or that people hear in music, it's like why was that song by Fanny like their biggest hit, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like the most primal song. It's like I think people are just like inherently drawn to things that feel more like uninhibited and like, which I guess essentially more primal, because like
Mm-hmm.
we all have that in us, right? Like we all kind of recognize that feeling, and it's not often that like it's okay to show it, kind of thing. So I think yeah, I think people are really drawn to that. So
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like you feel like the realism in it, like,
yeah.
and even I get that vibe when I see people play live music. Sometimes you can feel like,
Mhm.
oh, this is really coming from the heart. And then
Totally.
I see something, I'm like, oh, there's something off about this. And then later I learn it's like, oh, like they don't even write their own music. It's just like it's stand
Yeah.
here, look pretty,
Or
and like
sometimes it's when you go to see a band that you know and love, and all of their songs, like every inflection of every chord and everything, and then you go and see it live and they're like doing it totally different, and they're just like kind of improving on a part, and you almost feel like high, right? Because you're like, oh my god, they're just like,
this is
this
for
is
me
like
right
just
now.
from their soul. Like this isn't a performance. This is just like guttural almost,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
This
I love
this
that.
conversation is making me miss live music so much.
Me too.
Yeah, like I was
Me
good for
too.
the year, like being strong. I don't know. This conversation is gonna make me break. Like,
Yeah, I really miss it too. Yeah.
yeah. Did you
Yeah.
perform much as well, or like you
I
said, you
mean,
did like musical theater and stuff?
yeah, I mean, I started in musical theater. That was like in high school. And then after that, I did a lot of solo stuff. I did a lot of like, open mics and stuff. I used to live in Ottawa, um, in Ontario. And I did a lot of open mics. And then when I moved to Toronto, I started a band. And my band actually played like quite a few shows around Toronto. And then
Cool.
we kind of, you know, went our own separate ways. And then now I'm just doing like solo stuff again. Um, but haven't performed live in quite a while. So it was definitely something that I was hoping to start doing again like last year. But
Yeah.
of course, like that didn't happen. So, but yeah, I'm working on a bunch of new songs right now. And I actually really want to create sort of like a live, like a virtual concert um, of like a bunch of new music. I'm working on an EP right now. So
Oh, cool.
that's, hopefully in the works for later this year. But I do actually have one song that's a single that's out on Spotify and iTunes. I think essentially most places you can stream music, but the song's called Gaslight. And my artist name is Elle Luna. So you'll find that on those platforms. But that's like the only single that I have out right now, which is kind of
Oh,
crazy because I think I have like hundreds of songs.
oh, that's cool. You're kind of like I don't know, like what's a movie, Iron Man, when he's in the cave just building and he's just gonna break out
Yeah,
and start
yeah,
blasting people with hits.
exactly. That's how I feel internally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You weren't ready for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I've been up to. Bam.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool to hear too. And for people listening to the audio version of this, we always end with a song. So I'm gonna dig that up and throw it
Oh,
at
no
the
way.
end of
Cool.
this interview. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
totally unrelated, your dog in
Mhm.
the background is so cute.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. She's the best. That's Patsy. Patsy Cline is her full name.
Ah, nice.
Um, she's really mad at me right now, as you can see. She's sulking.
Yeah.
Um, really wants me to be petting her right now and doesn't
Uh-huh.
understand why I'm not. So
Yeah, I'm sorry, Patsy. A big fan of Patsy Cline, both the musician and now the dog.
yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool to hear your background with all the music and stuff because like yeah,
Yeah.
one of the highlights for me of the film what were the songs.
Yeah.
Just
Some really amazing, some bangers, honestly. Like Lowell is such a talented songwriter. Um, and I mean, clearly that's widely known now because she's working in LA with like a bunch of huge pop stars and writing for them. And um, I think that kind of took off when her and her mom had just started writing this movie. So I think they like there was a time where they almost scrapped it because she was so busy.
oh wow.
And they luckily decided to, just like stick to it and keep going. And I think a lot of people are very glad that they did because she writes amazing music. And I was, yeah, like I said, as soon as I heard the songs, that's what just sold me, 1,000%.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like beyond everything, like it's just so unique too, like from the
Mhm.
tone of the film and yeah, all the
Yeah.
different themes like we mentioned and
Yeah. It's
everything like
definitely
that.
like genre bending or like, it pushes the boundaries because it's not your typical kind of like werewolf film.
Yeah.
And I think that freaks a lot of people out. Um, but I mean, to me, that's so funny because it's like, I think that there's some horror fans that are very precious about, like a certain subgenre or, certain trope in horror because they're like, well, it's always been this way. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean it's like they did it differently? Like they can't do that. But
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they get really like protective and kind of like, you know, honestly
Yeah,
like
that's
mean
not the
about
werewolf rules. Like that bullet
it.
wasn't silver.
Yeah, exactly. The bullet was silver. But the thing is like you never see a full moon in the movie, right?
Oh, true.
Um and a lot of other things are, we really pushed the boundaries with this. And I think like that's what I love about it. And I think like that's how we'll continue to have some like really cool, crazy horror films. Like how else do you grow, right? Like as a genre, if you
Yeah.
don't kind of like test things and push the limits a bit. But I mean, the thing to me that I really loved about this werewolf story too is that it is so different. And it's like in most werewolf films, you see the human and then the full moon comes and then it's just animal. There's
Mhm.
like there's really no middle ground. You lose that the human completely. And in this film, and I know they did this very consciously, like this is what they had in mind, but they wanted to really they wanted the monster to be like relatable.
Yeah.
And
It's like within something you hide
yeah,
and yeah.
yeah, it's like a hybrid, and you
Yeah.
see that monster inside of her, and you see her existing at the same time when she's transformed, right? Because it's like it's my face just built out.
Mhm.
into a werewolf, right? Like I'm not like in a fursuit.
Yeah, yeah.
So it makes you like really empathize with the character
Yeah, it
because
looks like it
amazing,
hurts, like
like
your nails and everything. Like, wow.
yeah. And like even for me, like in between filming scenes where I'm in the werewolf makeup, I, would maybe be like using the washroom or something, and I'd like look at myself in the mirror and just be like, whoa, like
Yeah, like
that's
just
me,
startled.
but like it's not me, but it is me. It's like I recognize that part of myself in myself, and it's weird to see it materialized.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I really liked that they kind of went that way with this film, and using only practical effects and like nothing in CGI, and
Yeah, I
it
love
was
that.
really cool to work that way.
Yeah, it's got to be cool too, like as an actress to like play a role like that and then see it finally like all edited
Yeah,
together.
yeah,
Because I'm sure there's moments like you're just like got the crazy fingernails, the
yep,
makeup on, and just like, I
yeah.
hope this fucking looks good. Like, I don't know how
Yeah,
this is
I
gonna
mean,
be.
it looked good, up close and
Yeah.
in person, but yeah, I guess you just never know how it's going to read. And we actually shot the transformation scene on the third day of shooting. So again, it was like a situation where I didn't even really have time to get in my head about it or to really like overthink it. I just had to do it. And I think that really was useful for me because I think with scenes like that, there's only so much preparation that you can do um, around sort of like the physicality, I guess, of it.
Mhm.
But ultimately, it's a transformation scene. It's like you're just gonna have to let it go and just like see what happens on the day. And there's not really, people are gonna be able to tell if that's rehearsed because it's supposed to come from like this very just primal, right? Like instinctive way that you're just like unleashing something. And like, how do you practice that?
Yeah, yeah,
So it was
exactly.
really cool to do it just in the moment um and actually be, stuck in that room and it's like literally a caged animal, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
having all those like lights flashing and Greta's song playing, like it was very like it set the tone, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I feel
so
like
I
the
had a
more
lot of
I
fun.
yeah, I feel like even
Yeah,
like the more I think of the film, like as time goes on throughout the day, it's like I'm
yeah,
finding more and more metaphors I didn't notice right away, whether it's like the music industry or
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
you just mentioning like, oh, being in the studio booth was like being in the cage. Like I didn't even
yeah,
like animal in the
yeah,
cage. I wasn't even thinking like that way. And like yeah, like there's just layer and layer. I'm sure there's
yeah,
more too, but
yeah.
yeah, even right away with the producer too.
Hmm.
I've heard some horror stories from friends in the music industry too, like their situations with producers, like total creeps and
Oh
just like
yeah, yeah,
dark side of the music industry. And I'm like, oh, this is like again another
yeah,
sci-fi metaphor of like that as well, which
yeah,
is
totally.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of creeps out there, and I think, and a lot of men, especially in the music industry, that I haven't personally had too much firsthand experience with that, but I have a lot of friends in the music industry that work professionally that have, and
Mhm.
like I've definitely heard some really awful stories. So I had some things to draw on, just thinking of things that friends of mine have been through. Obviously this goes a little in a different direction than
Yeah, yeah.
um,
It's all good though.
but yeah, there's so many metaphors, I guess, in this film, or not even metaphors, but um so many underlying themes of things, and um yeah, it's just really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. That's one like I'm trying to like bring up some stuff without like spoiling the film as well. But we already mentioned the transformation. I wanted to say
Yeah.
that was one of my favorite parts too, because even like how like the cinematography was too
Mhm.
with the music, and I don't
Yeah.
know, it's just such a like a, even though like something terrible is happening, like it just visually I'm like, oh, that's like beautiful, like that's well done, like it's
Yeah.
almost to
It
me
is. It
that's
is
like
very like
beautiful.
beautifully
Like
done. And the the makeup artist, like the special effects makeup artist that we had, Ashley, she was amazing. And everyone on that shoot we were just so lucky. Like everyone was so talented. And so it all came together super, super beautifully. And if you think about the transformation scene too, it's like a lot of it, a lot of that feeling, that like creepy feeling that you get is also done through the sound,
Yeah.
right? Like the sound of the like cracking bones and the and that sort of thing. It really, the sound design on this film too was really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, too. I watched the film before I did the other interview as well, and I just had like it was such so well done. Like I felt like dark and dirty after it, and this other interview was going to be like this happy tone. So I went back to their documentary and I just played the credits music, which is all like
To
happy.
try and
I'm like,
get
I
back
need to
there. Yeah.
reset my brain. It's just like,
Yeah, it definitely, it's kind of like it stays with you, you know.
yeah.
um and that's when I feel like it's like a job well done, is when the movie kind of lingers with you after, just like that atmosphere, the like the vibe of the film kind of
Yeah.
stays with you.
You just start
um
thinking about it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. And you said you worked with this director before as well, right?
Yeah, so we did actually another really great horror film that you should definitely watch. It's called Bleed With Me. And that was Amelia's first feature. And it's kind of, a winter cabinet in the woods story. It's a slow burn psychological thriller.
Whoa.
Really, really amazing script, really well done. Again, like the cinematography on that film too is just absolutely stunning. And the story is really layered and really gets under your skin. And the ending is just amazing. So definitely check that out if you have time.
Yeah, definitely. Like, especially like I love this one, and like obviously like you guys are good to collab with each other and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
guys have that chemistry. So yeah, that's
Yeah, we have a
interesting.
lot of fun together. I think like we had a great experience on Bleed With Me, and so coming into Bloodthirsty, we already sort of knew how each other works, and know that we work well together. And so, and it was also nice, coming onto a set where you might not have known one single person, and knowing like that we at least know each other. And
Yeah.
it makes it feel a little bit more like comfortable initially going in. But yeah, she's such an amazing director, and I've said this a million times, but she has such a clear vision with what she wants, and she's so confident in herself and like her vision that she gives you room to kind of play around within that,
Yeah, cool.
and I keep saying this, but she makes actors feel like artists. Like she really makes you feel like you're doing this together, and you're collaborating on this, and you're creating this piece of art together as artists. You don't feel like a puzzle piece kind of thing,
Yeah.
or just kind of like a piece of the.
Yeah.
Um, whereas you might feel that on like a bigger set, um, or a bigger budget film or
Yeah,
what
I, th-
have you.
I
But
think that's important too, and
yeah.
I think that just brings out the best in everybody. You're
Mhm.
comfy, you care.
Yeah.
Like I've know like a lot of people who've been on like sets where they felt uncomfortable and they still like knocked it out of the park. But like I feel like if I
Yeah.
was in that situation, I totally like choke whatever I'm doing. Just like I don't know. I feel like I'm such like an empath to vibes and stuff like that, where it actually will make me physically tired or whatnot. But
I know that feeling. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Have you ever been like, you don't have to name any movies or shows or any, but have you ever been on a set that was like a nightmare?
Um, Honestly, like luckily, no. No, like I've never had a terrible experience, but I have had like really hard days on
Yeah.
set where maybe a specific scene was really hard, or the conditions surrounding doing the scene were really hard. But um I mean, one of them was actually on Pay the Ghost, which is a Nicolas Cage film that I did, I guess, gosh, like 6 or 7 years ago now.
Oh, cool.
But the scene was, my character was being, it's not a spoiler. She's being burnt alive at the stake and has to scream a curse onto the town in Gaelic. And so, obviously, like this was my first big thing in like a major film, and I was already so nervous. And then we were shooting this at like 2 in the morning, freezing cold in the middle of the woods. And it kept getting pushed back, kept getting pushed back. I was getting more and more tired and cold and all these things. And when it finally got down to doing the scene, I was so frustrated that um that I just ended up, just like using it in the scene, which, luckily that was a scene where I could do that.
Yeah.
So all my frustration, all of my like, I just want to go home, like so
Yeah.
cold, I'm so tired. It all just like came out in the performance, and I
Yeah,
think like
you were actually hoping the
helped me a
curse
little
would
bit.
come, like, from
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna do it
Well,
right this.
actually, there was a scene, there was a shot in Bloodthirsty where I won't say exactly what it was because it would be a spoiler, but there's a scene, let's say, where I have the werewolf makeup on, and there's blood spraying into my face, and I, as you know from the movie, am wearing those big werewolf contacts,
Yeah,
and
they
so
look
those
sick, by the way.
they're
Those look
amazing.
so cool.
They're a bitch to get in, but they're
Yeah.
amazing. Um, I still have them actually. I kept them.
Yeah,
I was like,
good.
"They'll
Just
come in handy for a Halloween or 2."
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I had those in, and it was a scene where blood's flying into my face, and when you have those in, you can't see very well because it covers a lot of your pupil, and so it's very blurry. So I couldn't tell where the blood was coming from, and it sprayed directly into my like open eyes. And what happened was it got under my contacts.
Oh no.
So I had this fake blood trapped under my werewolf contacts, and I was essentially blind. I couldn't see. And we were in the middle of the woods, and we were, I think at that point, kind of um, trapped in the area that we were in because there
Oh
was
no.
a car blocking the one road. And then we realized that my werewolf nails were super glued on
Oh
by
god.
accident. Like, so that was an interesting night.
Yeah, and you're
Say
probably
that
like, I just want to get out of this forest and take a fucking shower, and like,
exactly.
and you can't like dig
Yeah,
out the
and it's
contact
still
with your
like,
nails, and like,
yeah, and you know that you still have to wait at least 2 hours to get all of the makeup off before you can even get to a shower. So
oh man, I got goosebumps thinking of that shower. Like it's just like,
just
oh
the
man,
relief of it, yeah.
yeah,
I think I stayed in the shower for about an hour after that, yeah.
yeah, just sit there with the warm water, like,
Yeah,
oh, finally victory,
yeah,
like hitting the finish line.
exactly.
Yeah, it seems like you get typecast into these roles where they're just doing terrible things to you. Like
Yeah,
and
I
you
mean,
you seem
or
like
like
such a nice
I'm doing
person, but maybe that's like the effect of it because it's like the contrast going on.
yeah, I mean, I was actually, funnily enough, talking to my boss at work today about this because he was like, I was telling him about this, and he's like, "Man, you get typecast in a lot of horror, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Why is that?"
Yeah,
I was like, I started thinking about it, and I'm like, "Well, I mean, I know just typecasting is a thing, but I'm like, why me?" And I
yeah,
was like, I think honestly that I have big eyes and kind of like an innocent looking face, and I think
mm,
that's like people like to see that type of a person be scared or or
yeah. It's like we
be
feel
screaming,
more for
or
it. It's like, oh no, don't
yeah,
hurt her. Like,
or exactly what you said, they like to see the unexpected where like that person looks so innocent and oh my god, they're not, or like
yeah,
they're actually like sinister. So those are the kind of roles I've been playing, and I'm not complaining. It's very, very fun.
yeah,
And horror is not a genre that I ever really thought that I would fall into, um, because it's not really talked about in like acting school, right? You talk about drama and you talk about comedy and you take classes in both of those things, but people never talk about horror, and that it's like you know, a very like booming genre, and that you probably will get work in that. So I just never considered it. And then now I'm getting typecast in a lot of horror, and I'm actually shooting another one in August, another feature. Um, and I think it's probably one of the funnest genres to act in.
yeah. That's
I like
cool.
getting I like getting bloody, and I like creeping people out, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest. Like I think back to Halloween's when I was a kid, and I didn't really care much for trick or treating. I would do it for a little bit, but then I would want to be at home in my
Do
garage
pranks and stuff.
making like a haunted house.
Oh,
And then I
cool.
would wait till kids got their candy and I would hide in the garage and then I would chase them down the street with my shovel. So like that's what I wanted to do. And I'm
That's
like,
amazing.
okay, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you didn't have the connections earlier, or like, and now it's just like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a natural. I've been doing
Yeah.
this my entire life.
Yeah. I always, whenever I went to those like haunted houses during Halloween, I would want to be the people in the house scaring people.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's what I thought was so cool. I remember one time someone jumping out and scaring me and I was like, "Do you like doing this?"
Yeah.
It's like
Here's
so
I brought
curious
my
to meet your dog.
resume. You just
Yeah.
give it to
Oh, my
like the
resume, here you go. Yeah.
person. Yeah. There
So
was
it's a total it's a blast for me to be in horror films. I love it.
yeah, that's cool. And especially like
Yeah.
it seems like you're just going with the flow and like you
Yeah.
kind of fell into this, like even
Yeah.
like you said you weren't like planning to be this horror chick, and now I don't know, I guess you, if you do the first one and knock it out of the park, people are gonna like keep calling you, especially like just in that community and everything, and just
Yeah,
like
totally. I
yeah,
mean, I'm already seeing like how amazing this community can be and how supportive people are and how like dedicated people are when they really love a film. And um, I've been lucky enough to get my last few jobs in horror like because of connections and then through Amelia and then Amelia helping me get this connection with the producer who's now helping me, helped me get this role that I got in August. And um, everyone just kind of like wants everyone to succeed and is really excited about what everyone else is doing. So
yeah.
it's been really cool to be a part of and to witness.
Yeah, I noticed too in Toronto too, just like for the past couple of years of me doing these segments and learning about like the different festivals, and
Hmm.
there's like probably two or three different film festivals, and then there's also like little conventions like Horrorama and stuff. And like you
Yeah.
mentioned, it's just like you think like it'd be scary to go to one of those, but it's such like a warm, happy vibe, and like
Yeah.
very, very communal too. It's like some of the horror people I've met are like the nicest people I've ever met, you
Totally.
know? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate like that you can't do like some meet and greets around this movie this year, like,
I
and
know.
there's
Yeah, that would
nothing
have been
going
really
on. And
cool.
yeah.
Would have been really cool. I mean, it's definitely a bummer that because we made it into some pretty awesome fests, and it would have been so cool to be able to be there in person and meet people and make connections and new friends and stuff. But I mean, I guess there is something to be said for some of these festivals being virtual and people being able to see the film that would have otherwise never been able to see it, right? So um I think I'm trying to really focus on that silver lining.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if I think about how sad it is that I can't sit in a theater with the entire cast and crew and watch it, it
Mhm.
gets too depressing. So
Yeah, just
yeah,
gotta like make the most of it. And yeah,
exactly.
it is an interesting way of like how things shifted, and like
Mhm.
things didn't halt, like, which is really good.
Yeah.
Like people can still get their stuff out. And
Yeah, everyone
even
problem solved, which is great.
yeah, even me as like a movie viewer, like for the whole year, I'm just like, oh, I miss sitting in the theater, getting the
Yeah.
popcorn and so. But last week, I was just scrolling on Skip the Dishes, and I realized you can just order
You
from
order the
cinema.
popcorn.
I didn't know.
Yep.
Yeah, people keep telling me you could have did this all year. I got so excited. Like I even
Yeah.
got like the nachos, which I don't really like. I'm just like I just
Yeah.
missed shitty nacho.
You just need the smell in the room.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
totally.
it's obviously not the same, but I don't know, there's ways to,
But
to
it's,
kind of cope, I guess.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned you're about to work on like another movie. Are you allowed to like talk about like what it's about, or
I'm not allowed to talk about it yet,
mm,
but I can tell you that it's like a German writer director. The script is epic.
cool.
It's gonna be really insane and really fun. Um, a lot of really awesome special effects will be happening on it. Um, and yeah, and we shoot late August, and it's one of the same producers as Bloodthirsty.
Oh, cool,
And
cool.
I'm really, really pumped. I'm really pumped for it. It's gonna be
Yeah,
really
yeah.
fun. Yeah.
I forget. like I might cut this part out, but is Bloodthirsty under Raven Banner as well?
Yes.
Okay, Raven Banner always does the coolest shit.
Yeah.
Like,
They're cool. They're really great. I've had a great
yeah,
experience with them. Like they're so active and they're so involved in everything. And yeah, really great.
yeah. There's just something about like that spirit. Like I love like how they just they take risks and produce things.
Mhm.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
just like no movies too crazy for them, you know? Like, and like even like if I get like an email about an interview and it says Raven Banner on it, I'm like, yeah, I'm watching it. I don't even care. Like I don't
Amazing.
even read the description. I'm like, I'm gonna watch this movie. Like,
That's so
let's
cool.
set up the
Yeah.
interview. Like it's probably
That's
gonna
great.
be
That's
nuts.
great that that's kind of like the reputation they've set for themselves. I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for
They're
sure.
really cool people.
Yes. And with this movie, are you gonna have to learn German in 6 days notice or
Thank God, no. It's
okay, good.
it's all in English.
Nice.
Not that I couldn't do it.
I know, eh? Like you taught yourself how to
I
play
would
piano
definitely
and
try.
yeah.
I definitely try, but yeah, no, it's all in English. It's gonna be really really fun. I think
Ah,
I think it's gonna do well too. I'm really really excited for it.
yeah, that's super exciting. So
Yeah,
yeah, when that comes out, we'll definitely be sharing that as well.
yeah, for
And
sure.
even like yeah, with your music as well. That's exciting too. Yeah, just killing it like from all different directions.
It's you know, it's one of those weird situations where like for a year I was just doing nothing. Like I was bored out of my mind. And now it's kind of like all of these little projects or all these different things that I worked on or that I have a hand in are all kind of coming into fruition at the same time. So it's kind of like one of those when it rains it pours types of situations, I think.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
you know, I can't complain. It's a lot of really fun projects, a lot of exciting stuff. And I feel very, very lucky that I have some fun stuff happening right now. I have some things to to get me out of bed in the morning. So
Yeah, that's great. I find too,
yeah.
like a lot of people, and even myself included, we're like very momentum based. Like you can have a time where you're just like just
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
down and not doing anything, and then you take
Yeah.
that one step, and then it just turns into like a snowball, and it
Yeah.
almost
It's this
turns into
total
like an
snowball effect.
obsession. It's like let's keep the ride going. Like let's not
Yeah.
stop this. Yeah.
It's kind of like that, you know, when I not to sound like hippy dippy, but to me, like I really believe in the energies, right, of people and like the energy that the level that you're kind of vibrating at. And if you kind of bring yourself up to that higher level of like energy vibration, you just start attracting shit to you. And it just like it keeps coming and keeps coming. And I honestly feel like that's sort of what started happening is you know, I got on this little wave of, okay, let's just try to be positive throughout this total shit show and like get creative and get productive and then once I started feeling good about that, it was kind of like a snowball effect and like things seem to keep happening and
Yeah.
it feels kind of like magical in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you say like you mentioned like all hippy dippy shit. Like I was honestly like just thinking about this like all week
Mhm.
because
Really.
I yeah I no I totally like believe in that too.
Mhm.
It's like you mentioned too. It's hard for me to almost explain it too because it's like a
Mhm.
feeling and almost the
Yeah.
way I carry myself and put myself forward. But
Yeah.
I had one of those lull times. I was just
Yep.
kind of like burnt
Yeah.
out and everything, and then I just kind of started getting my foot forward and
Yeah.
again bringing my energy up to whatever this unspoken level is. And
Yeah.
I booked like one interview, and then all of a sudden my email just starts flooding with like
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing thing. I'm just like, and I didn't even like ask for them or whatever. It's just kind of
Totally.
I don't know what that is, but I love it. Like
Yeah, exactly. I think
yeah,
there's like an aspect to that too of like just like once you kind of like emanate whether it's like gratitude or you know those types of feelings where you're like you know whatever is going to happen is going to happen and I'm just grateful that you know my family is alive and healthy and you kind of dig yourself out of that dark place then you start to attract the light, right? Like you start to
yeah.
attract
Or even other
those
people on the same wavelength, and
yeah,
then you
and
kind of like fit
exactly
together
people
like a
too.
puzzle and make each
Yeah,
other grow. And
You'll
Yeah,
start to, yeah, you'll start to meet people that you're like, oh, that like I feel like I know you, like, you're just on
yeah,
that same wavelength, and it's like you might have not even met if you hadn't have been on that same level.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I love
really
this shit. I could talk about it for hours.
me too. Like, like, and even like, oh, even before too, like when I started doing this show, like, it was more just conversational based, and I wasn't getting like bigger guests. It wasn't really like to promote anything, but
Yeah.
a few of my friends tuned in, and they were just like, "All you talk about is this spacey shit and sleep paralysis." Like, like you should. But I was trying to go in this artist direction where like
Yeah, yeah.
interviewing people like you in bands and stuff. But like for the
Yeah.
first little bit, it's just like my corner of friends, and then I'm just going deep about like the universe and like my
Oh,
scary
this
sleep
is great.
paralysis
Like
shit.
honestly, this is my favorite shit to talk about. And I'm actually another creative project that seems to be manifesting is that I'm starting a podcast with a friend of mine called Podcast 333. And it's gonna be about aliens, spirituality, and being gay. And it's the three kind of like main topics. Um, and so yeah, like this is my favorite stuff to talk about.
That is cool. And
Yeah,
when you said 333, I got goosebumps. I have the spookiest thing with that number.
I do
Um,
too. That's why I called it that. Yeah,
oh my god.
yeah.
I love this talk.
There's
I'm
you,
like almost like I'm getting chills like trying to
yeah.
explain this to
If
you.
you if you get into which I mean, you've probably already looked it up, but like with numerology, the 333 is like very meaningful. And I started seeing 333 just constantly for the past like 6 months or so, and now it's started to go into 333 and 222. And anyways, me and my friend were having the same phenomenon happening, and at the same time like we started to get really spiritual and really into like watching documentaries about like about aliens and all these conspiracy theories and stuff, and we just find it so interesting and we're totally obsessed, so we that's why we decided to call the podcast 333.
That's
um
so dope. I'm
yeah,
subscribing
so
when it comes out.
have you been seeing it everywhere too? Is that what's
So
happening?
even before I researched it, it just kept
Yeah,
popping up in like, but like in at specific times when I noticed there was a pattern of me going through life-changing stuff.
yeah,
Like, and it was never like a bad thing. It was
yeah,
like really positive stuff. And like it would just pop out. Like I wouldn't like look at numbers all day. All of a sudden I look over, the address of the house is 333.
yep,
I look at my
yep.
phone, it's 333.
Exactly.
But the
Yeah,
spookiest one is it stopped happening, and I was at a bar like talking to
yeah,
my friend about like this. I'm like, oh, I used to see this number and now it's gone away or whatever.
yeah.
So you may not believe me, people listening to this, they might not believe me and unsubscribe, but this is my truth.
Yeah,
That night from the bar I came home, and my right now I'm living in like this split house that's split into apartments, and
yeah,
the one main floor, it's like a family, and they got a little garden in the front.
yeah.
And they had this wooden board like just kind of like in the front. I'm gonna say lawn in quotations because I live in Toronto.
Right.
But I walked home that day and just somebody with spray paint wrote 333 on that, and this is like going up the
Oh,
steps to my house.
yeah,
And
that is
I
so
remember
bizarre.
just freezing there and like just being so spooked, but
Yeah,
also like there's a part of my brain that too loves it. It's like, what is that? It's like,
yeah. I mean, yeah,
and the person I was talking to lives way on the other end of town, so he couldn't have got there before I got there
yeah.
and spray paint that.
You're
I
like,
want
are
to
you
make that
pranking
clear.
me? Yeah. No, I mean, I believe that this shit, like, there's no accidents, like,
Yeah.
and if you think that something is happening, like, it's happening, and whether that's to say you're on the right path, or you're being kind of guided by the universe on the right path, and just keep doing what you're doing kind of thing. Whatever it is, like, I love it. I
Yeah,
love stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I even heard something cool about deja vu, and somebody said
Mm,
it's almost the same thing. It's like means you're on the right path. You've
yeah, I've
maybe
heard that
had
too.
multiple lives, but they called it a wink from the universe. I was like,
Oh,
that's
that's
cool.
cool.
Yeah, just a little hey there.
Love that.
That's probably can relate to the 333s as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's very cool.
Yeah.
A
Oh,
wink from the universe. I love that.
yeah. This is such an awesome combo.
Yeah, I'm having a great
I
time.
I
This is
actually,
not where I thought this conversation would go, but I'm really happy that we're here.
me neither. It's like I used to go down this rabbit hole like on like really old episodes, but it's
Mhm.
been a good like 2 years since I've talked about like the
Wow.
space bit. So
Well, I'm honored to be talking about it with
yeah,
you.
this is awesome. And yeah, maybe when you put out the first episode of the podcast, we can have
Yeah,
you and your co-host on here and
that'd be
do a little
awesome. Yeah,
co-promotion. And because I'm always
love
down to
that.
talk about like some spacey shit and whatnot.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Would love to. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not gonna take too much more of your time. Patsy Cline, I can see her in the
No
background
worries.
just like rolling her eyes.
She's getting her sleeping position's getting more and more dramatic as
Yeah, yeah.
we
She's
go
like, I
along.
want you to know I'm frustrated with you. But yeah, so
Yeah.
people like where can they follow you online?
Yeah, the best is probably Instagram. It's Lauren Lynn 1919. And then my Twitter is Lauren one Lynn. But I'm most active on Instagram. And I also have a website, laurenbeatty.com. I try to keep it, as up to date as possible with events and news and stuff like that of what I have going on. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's it.
awesome. And yeah, for people who want to check out Bloodthirsty, it's now on video on demand.
Mhm.
If you Google it, it pops up. There's a Vimeo one. I think it's on iTunes as well. Am I correct? Or
Yeah,
yeah.
actually, if you rent it on iTunes, it's I think iTunes specifically, it counts as like a theater ticket for
Ah,
us. So I would encourage people to rent it that way if they
yeah,
can.
guys, do
Yeah.
that. And yeah, but yeah, thank you so much for your time tonight. This was such a
Thank you,
pleasant
Sean. Yeah, this
conversation.
was really fun. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm gonna keep in touch and like I look forward
Yeah.
to the music and your next role, the podcast,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Just keep killing it,
All of the
girl. I
things.
love it.
You too.
Hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Lauren Beatty. Like we mentioned in the intro, you can now check out this movie on video on demand, and I suggest you do it the iTunes route. It actually helps the filmmakers out a lot and counts as a movie ticket. So that is sick. But before we go, I gotta give a special thanks to our co-producer, Jeremy Hopkin of Hopkin Design, and all the rest of you legends on the Patreon. First up, Ola Mazuka of Sonic Fold, Ryan Watkins of Ryan Radio, Amanda McKnight of Top 10 Nerd. Congratulations on your 550th video and 1 million plus subscribers on that. Check her out. Also, shout outs to Pat Maloney, Ryan Campbell, Daniel Sun, Drew Stewart, Devin Staple, and Francis Kopfer, aka my mom. Appreciate y'all for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Just take